Hello, and welcome to Intersection. Thank you for joining me. I'm excited to be back for another message, for another teaching, for another conversation. And if you don't mind, just please hit the subscribe button and like and share and even comment, because I want to hear from you the questions that you have, maybe the topics that you will want also to see us addressing. Of course, if that fit with what we're here for and what the Lord puts on our heart, I would be glad to just expand on that and just answer to the best of my ability. So tonight, where I want to take you is in Luke, the Gospel of Luke, and that is chapter 8, and it's verse 4 to 15. I will not read it, of course, for time reason, but I encourage you to just read and even follow, along with me. If you can, just grab your Bible and just get there. So this way you can follow and really see the words for yourself. And what I want to talk about tonight is seeds of greatness, maximizing your potential. And usually when I love to talk about seeds. I love to talk about, I think that's really, my calling, like really to help people discover what God has for them, God's will for their life, and align. It's not just discovering and knowing, because that is one thing, but it's really pursuing it. It's really going after and doing it, because sometimes we can say, I know, but if it's just a knowing and we don't apply and we don't do anything with it, then really what's the point, right? So I want to talk about, it's the parable of the sower, and I want to talk about the seeds that we have. And again, you will notice anyway that my message, I don't always come, to really give you something new, but I come to just take you back to what you know that you haven't applied, because there are many things like that we know. But again, if we don't put them into practice, we become, just like the Bible tells us, that person that looks in the mirror and a few minutes later forgets what they look like, right? We don't want to be like that. We don't want to be the people that do not have strong foundation, and people really that it's just all the talking and no work, no action. So when I come on, it's always, with the desire to not only encourage you, but also to challenge you and to help you go back to the things that, yes, you've heard before, or or you've started, and for some reason, maybe you hit a roadblock and you kind of gave up, or you stop, or whatever happens, life happened, and you didn't get on that, even hit that goal and just follow that path. So I kind of always want to come and reposition you, to the path that God has for you, to make sure, and I come even as a voice to just remind you of what God is saying and what God has already spoken to you. So although I don't come with necessarily like a new message, but I always want to bring, of course, there's always an element of newness to what I bring. And I hope, that you receive it. But mainly, I want to always make sure that you do not forget what God has spoken, and that you work on it to achieve it and to really fulfill your destiny and the call that's on your life. And when I talk about, even in this context, I want to talk about the seeds that we've been given. And yes, there is so much emphasis on, reproduction. Like, yes, it was for quite some time, all we thought about, even when we are told to be fruitful and to multiply, is always been linked to the number of children that we can have, or, that we must have children. And I know that we've moved kind of away from just that limited understanding of what the Word of God means to us, by seeing now, or considering the fact that when God gave us seed, He gave us different types of seeds. He gave us multiple abilities, skills, and talents. And it's not just, our ability for us to reproduce as human, but it's also the ability to reproduce even on an intellectual level. Whatever ideas God has given us, whatever gifts and skills and talents and abilities that God has given us, that we're able to reproduce, that we're able to produce something from it. We're able to bear fruit. We're able to just impact our generation, to impact our community, to impact the people that we do life with and those that we connect with. So again, I want you to really be open and embrace the notion that tonight what I want to talk about is not the kids part. We all know that, but it's really the ideas and the dreams that God plants in our hearts. Like we have those things even at birth, because God says He knew us from the beginning. He had plans for us before, we were even formed in our mother's womb, that He knew us. So He already had plans. So it's not like you just, are being born and you grow up and now God calls you and say, you know what, I have an idea for you. Here you go. That's not how it works. We already have those things inside of us. But now the question is, what do we do with it? What do we do with it? So from the first angle, I actually want to approach the parable of the sower from two different angles. And the first one will be from the perspective that God is the sower, is the farmer, that parable is telling us about, that is the farmer and is the one going out and sowing the seeds, right? So literally, God has planted seed in us, okay? And even it's like the seed is equivalent of the word of God. So God speaks to us, God gives us his message. And then we have the different soil. We have 4 types of soil that are mentioned in this parable. So I want you to see yourself as the soil that God calls you. He said you are the soil. So there are seeds that as a farmer that is planting inside of you. Now we have 4 different soil. And let me just read quickly what those 4 soils are and what they do or what happened to them. So Verse 5 tells us, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was carrying the seed, some fell along the path. So we have the path. And what happened there, the birds ate what fell on that path. And the second one was a rocky ground. And when it came up, the plant withered because they had no moisture. So basically, it was just shallow. It wasn't deep enough. The seed didn't go deep enough to produce. So it just died. And then the third category is the thorns. And when the seed fell among the thorns, of course, choked the seed. And again, same result, it died. So out of all these 4, you see the first 3, although they're different types of soil, at the end you get nothing. There was no fruit that was produced because of different reasons. And the last one, the 4th one, is a good soil. It fell on good soil. And it came up and yielded a crop 100 times more than what was sown. And different translation, I think from Matthew 13 says, even some he produced 30, 60, and 100-fold. But I'm not even going there. That's why I didn't even choose that account, that gospel, because it's not really, the point is not on the 30 or 60 and 100. Anyway, let's just keep it at 100. Everybody, have 100 return fold, but 100-fold return. But it's really the 4 different soil. And if you look at it from the aspect of the ideas that God has given you, the dreams that God has given you, the talents, the skills, the abilities that you have, the question will be, what do you do with that? Now, God plants a dream in your heart. God plants a vision. It gives you an idea. What do you do? Or what kind of soil are you? How do you receive that? If you are the path, that's the first type of soil, then what does that mean? It means that you hear it, you kind of dream, like a little bit, and then you just forget. And it just as if you never heard anything. And you just keep going on your way, right? Because that dream didn't even really had time to sit on your heart to do anything. It's just like as soon as it felt, you heard the idea, I was like, okay, not bad. And you kept going. Nothing. You didn't really give any thoughts to it. You didn't really take time to meditate on the words. You didn't take time to kind of explore the idea and find out, like, is this viable, or, which way can this come about? You just dismiss it like, okay, I hear it, but nah, and then you can just go your way. Or if you the second soil, the rocky ground. When I say if you are the second soil, I don't even want to mean it like in a general way, like just to say this is who you are, because I know that you don't do it, you don't act like that with everything, right? But I'm talking specifically about the context of, like ideas that God is implanting in us. I'm talking about dreams and visions and plans that God has, and what is our reaction to what God wants to do. And so if you are the second soil and it's the rocky ground, it's like, yes, you receive it, you get excited. But what does the Bible tells us that, the soil wasn't deep enough. It was shallow. So because it was shallow, that means it didn't have time to really stay. So you heard the dream, you received it, or the idea or the vision, you received it, you got excited, for a minute, but then you didn't really take time again to consider. At least, you kind of, maybe like we say, let me sleep on it, right? Maybe you slept on it, but you didn't sleep long enough. You slept on it, but you didn't do your homework. You didn't even, start asking questions and again, considering the options and the possibilities. You didn't do the work. You just let it slide. So the third one, I'm trying to go quick because I want to make sure that I also go to the second angle that I want to approach because it's very important. And the third one is the thorns. So we see in the thorns that the thorns of course choked the seed and it was unable to produce, to grow, to give anything. So that will be the equivalent of someone just receiving the dream, getting excited about the vision and all, even starting to work on it. You start considering, maybe you start working on, okay, let me start a website, or let me start writing the book, or let me just connect with this person, or whatever the case may be, depending on that dream, depending on that idea, depending on that vision. You start working on it. And then when you hit roadblocks, when it gets difficult, when it gets tough, and you're like, I don't have the money to do it, or I don't have the help that I need, or I don't know how to get this thing, I don't have the necessary, like the materials that are necessary to do the task, and you just stop, you buckle up and you don't move. So that will be, the example of the thorns, because it's like you have external factors and reason that come and kind of stop you in your tracks, that stop your progression. And already the saying that if you don't move forward and you're stagnating, basically stagnation is the same as dying, because it only takes but so much time for you to start regressing and then disappearing and fading away and dying. So that would be the first three. Now let's consider the fourth one. The good soil is the person that received the dream, that really gets in line and in sync with what God is speaking, and believe that and work with God and just persist and see results. And I'm here tonight just to remind you of who you are. You are not the first three that I mentioned. You are the fourth one. You are the good soil. How do I know that? Because I know that God will not waste his seeds on someone who doesn't have value. God will not, even if he gives me that message again tonight, it's because he wants you to remember who you are. God wants you to know. We can read the parable of the talent and feel like, oh, maybe I'm that wicked servant. No, this is not your destiny. This is not your portion. God is calling you to be that good soil. He's calling you to produce, to give fruits, to bear fruit, to give back to him what is invested in you. Right? God is such an intelligent God and a masterful God, and is such an incredible Father. He knows us and he gives us according to our ability. So if God has given you any type of ideas, any type of dreams, don't look at it and be like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do it. No, just go back. What do you do when you don't know how to use something? If God is the sower, if God is the giver of seeds, then what would you do if you were buying, let's say, a pack of seeds from a garden store somewhere? Wouldn't you go to the packet at least to try to read the instructions there? And I think that's just, as simple as it is, that's the part that we miss the most, because we feel like God has given us all those gifts and those skills and those talents and abilities and even responsibilities and people around, even our children, and we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know what to do. And instead of going back to him and ask him, Father, how do we do that? How do we go about this thing? We try to figure it out on our own. And then we go back to becoming the thorny ground. We go back to becoming the one that, because of all these difficulties, because of all these questions, because of all, these trials and testing, we just give up and we stop. And God is like, no, I want you to remain the good soil. I want you to stay there and wait for that water, or seek that water. Stand in my word and meditate on it. That's where you will get the nutrients. That's where you will get the strategies, the ideas, and the solutions that you need to make sure that you bear fruit. And that's why the Bible tells us, I think it's in John, I believe it's 15 or 14. Anyway, I think around that, I think it's 15. That tells us, if we abide in God, if we abide in him, Jesus was telling us, if you abide in me, you will bear much fruit. So the thing is, when God is planting you, don't try now to grow yourself. That's the mistake that a lot of us make. We try to, just grow ourselves. We try to promote ourselves. We try to make something happen, right? We always say, oh, I'm going to make it happen. But God is not asking you to make it happen. God is asking you to just receive what he's bringing and to let him be the vine dresser, to let him be the gardener that will water you, because a seed cannot water itself. right? But the seed has to be able to absorb the water that is being given. So it's really that, tonight, that it's on one level. That's really where I want you to see, because I know that we're reaching a time, especially now, come to it's really the last quarter that we're about to begin soon. And I know it's like that, a lot of frustration can already start happening, or a lot of stress, because you feel like, oh my God, the year is already over and I haven't done much. And you look and you're like, oh Lord, and and then you just start falling into that mode of, like, maybe this year is not mine. I thought it was. No, I'm here to say you have enough time to produce. You have enough time. 3 months, we still have 3 months left. It's more than enough for God to bring forth, what He wants to bring forth in your life. It's still time for you to go back and, just let Him just stir the pot again. Let Him just stir these things in you. Don't give up on those ideas. Don't give up on those dreams just because maybe you were expecting to see some result from the first quarter or second quarter. There's still time. And even if you don't see everything manifesting in this year, it doesn't mean that God is done. So you can still, just hang on and do the work. Do what He calls you to do, what you're supposed to do. Continue to dwell in His presence and ask Him, what steps do I make? What do I do right now? Who do I reach out? What classes do I need to take? Who do I need to listen to? Who do I need to attach or connect myself with? Who do I need to serve in this season? What do I need to read? What do I need to let go of? Who do I need to detach myself from? All these different things. There are so many questions that we can ask, but I want you to ask those questions. I want you to do the work, because the soil, knows that its responsibility is really to make that seed, come up. It knows that it's not just there to look good, to look pretty. He has a responsibility. So that is you and I as the soil. When God drops this idea, this vision, this plan, this dream, He expects us to run with it with Him and bring forth fruit. What gardener, what farmer will plant a seed without expectation of seeing a return? He might as well not do anything. And that's really the first part of this message. I want to remind you to work with what you have been given. I want you to see what's already there, what you already have, what God has planted in you. And please, if you're not sure, you don't have an idea, I just encourage you to just, pray and ask God to lead you to the people that can encourage you, that can help you discover. Just work on the things that you like, work on the passion that you have, work on even the things that you find yourself always going back to, the things that maybe, when you do, you feel excitement, you feel joy, the things that even if you were not getting paid for, that you will do with a smile. And you will do it with excellence. The things that you just wish, even like if you were not working, you would probably volunteer at an organization doing just that. The thing that when you see and you're like, oh my God, I wish I had enough money so I could solve this problem. All these things, sometimes give you an idea. It may not be the whole of it, but it gives you an idea of what God has planted in you. They can reveal what's hidden in you. So just keep on asking and praying, but don't just use that as an excuse not to move forward. Don't use that as an excuse to say, yes, we have different skills and abilities. We're not called to the same things, but it doesn't mean that you have nothing. None of us can say that we just here without seeds. We all have seeds. And I say that and I'm smiling right now as the Lord is really showing me the fruits that are seedless. And it's like, none of us are seedless fruits, because you take those fruits now, you have seedless grapes and seedless cucumber, and everybody wants that because it's easy. But I find myself going back to, like, I want the real cucumber. I want the one with the seeds. I want to see seed in it, because it reminds me of what God has put in us. It reminds me of who we are. We are life-giving people. We bear fruit. We're here to reproduce, to multiply. So let me just not spend more time on this one. The second point that I want to share, and the second angle that I want to approach, and I hope I won't be that long with this, but it's really now that, yes, you in the first one, you are the soil. God is the sower. But now I want to see yourself as the sower. So now you have seeds, right? You have seeds, because at first I was talking about the dreams being your seed, the seed that God puts in you. But now you being the sower, that means you still have your skills, you still have your talents, you still have your gifts. You have your time even. You have your energy. You have your money. You have your connection relationships. All of that are seeds that God has given you, that is entrusted you with. And it's not just for you to be fruitful, like I was using in the first example or the first scenario. Yes, you're supposed to bear fruit, but out of those fruits, God is also asking you now to multiply. And that's where we have the second part of the dominion mandate. You know, when the Genesis 1, verse 26, 27 tells us when God blessed in the beginning, when he blessed man, and he said, be fruitful and multiply, subdue the earth, right? Fill the earth and subdue it. So we have that mandate to not just be fruitful, but to multiply. So as the soil, you have to be fruitful. That means you have to bring forth fruit from what God has planted in you. But now when you become the sower, now that means that you have the seeds now, and because you have more, and now you're able to multiply. And in that, I want to really draw your attention very quickly on something that we sometimes take for granted, and it leads to many disastrous consequences, because it can lead us to pain and hurt and disappointment and betrayal, and you name it. Because we don't understand that as the sower that we are, as the farmer that we now become, in our mandate to multiply, we have to discern the good soil. Now it's our duty to still be led by the Spirit of God, but to discern. What do I mean by that? I mean that you have seeds, you have gifts that God has entrusted you with, you have abilities, and again, you have your time, you have your energy, you have your money. And if you don't discern, you will find yourself being that farmer that will sow in the wrong soil. Because if you put that time, energy, or money, or skills and knowledge and all that you have, if you sow that on the path, guess what? The birds will come and eat it. That means you're sowing it into a place that people really have, they not even have the capacity. They will not receive it. It's like, you wasting your time, right? That's what we will say. You wasting your time. So you don't want to do that. The second one would be the same thing. The rocky ground, it's not deep enough. What you have is valuable. What you carry is precious. And if you don't see it like that, you will find yourself sowing your seeds, sowing your time, your energy, your vision, even your dreams and your hopes and your aspirations. You will really carry that and even share that with people who do not have the capacity to handle it. They don't have the potential, to just run with that vision. They cannot help you with whatever you carry. So you find yourself sharing that idea. You share that knowledge, and you find yourself with people that, they do nothing with it. You're like, oh, let's start this business. Let's go to this convention. Let's go to this seminar. Let's go to this workshop. And they're like, talk to me about the next concert, or talk to me about, I don't know, the next reality TV show, you name it, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have to discern what soil you want to plant your seeds in if you want a return. Because if you also sow that into even the thorny ground, you have people that, yes, they will clap. Yes, let's do it. Yes, right. I'm in it. Sign me up. I'll come. Let's go. Even sometimes it's like fitness challenge. Yes, sign me up. I'll do it. And then, something happened. Oh, I couldn't make it. I got sick. My daughter got sick. My cat was hurt. My dog had to see the vet. I mean, whatever. Again, I'm being dramatic. But these are all, the excuse giver. These will be the people that will always come up with the reason not to do it. They will always leave you, like on a limb. Always, something will happen. So again, even from approaching from this angle, I felt like the Holy Spirit wanted me to show you, the two aspects of it. Because sometimes we just see ourselves, being like the receiver. We just see ourselves like, oh, I'm a good soil. I want to produce. Yes. But then when you produce and you have all these fruits, what do you do with those fruits? Make sure that you share them with the right people. When you have your experiences, when you have your again, your talents and all those opportunities and possibilities that are open up to you, what do you do? Who do you invite into those circles? And that's really where sometimes we don't draw the line. We don't set the boundaries. And we feel like, oh, but these are my buddies. I cannot let them down. Oh, these are my family members. And if I do it, they might think that. But I think we reach a point where we can no longer think about those petty considerations. And I'm not saying to, not help the people around you. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we have to be led by the Spirit of God. I'm saying that we have to be able to discern, like what we do with our seeds, what we do with our fruit, what we do with our intelligence, what we do with our time, what we do with all these precious assets and gifts that God has given us that we take for granted, and we're not able to multiply. And then all of that is causing is like you sow all these things, you spend all this time, all this energy, all this money doing here and there and helping people here and left and right. And at the end, you come back home feeling frustrated and depressed and defeated because you don't see the return, you don't see the result. But I want to tell you tonight, they're not the reason why you're not producing. You are the own reason why you're not producing, because you planted in the wrong soil in the first place. And if you had asked the Lord, he would have probably told you not to plant there in the first place. So that's really an invitation. And maybe, it may sound harsh, but, I think it's time for us to just grow up and become more mature and more responsible with what God has given us. We can no longer, give our pearls to swine, to pigs. We can no longer do that. And I don't care, how close they are to us, but we need to have that sense of responsibility, really understanding that, the same way I will never give my car to my 10-year-old child, that's the same way I will never plant what I carry into a soil knowing that it will not produce. Because our goal is to multiply, and it's to multiply to have 100-fold return, right? At least 30, 60, if not 100-fold return. So how do you make sure that you get 100-fold return unless you're planting in the good soil? And how would you know it's good soil? Because I know it's not always obvious. There are some relationships that we invest in, not knowing from the beginning that these are the type of people, right, that we'll end up with. They look good, they sound right, they seem to want what we want, they seem to be going in the same direction. And then it's only down the road that we realize that, apparently we're not on the same line. Apparently, we're not even in the same train, right? We're not going in the same direction. And again, it may sound so trivial. It may sound like, okay, Camille, that's your answer to everything. And I want to say, yes, that is my first answer. Go back to the Lord in prayer. Go back to God and ask him before you even do anything, actually, so that there will be no going back. Ask God. I know, like I have this friendship, I have this relationship, I have this connection, Lord. How much of my seed should I invest in it? How much of my time? How much of my energy? How much of who I am, of my gift, of what I have that you have given me? How much of those skills, even my cooking skills, my, I don't know, counseling skills, whatever, what you're good at, how much should I ask God? I think the problem is we don't ask God, and we just do it out of our own, the kindness of our heart. We want to help, we want to save, and sometimes we have that savior complex. We want to save everybody, and it makes us feel good that we can help them. And then at the end, we find ourselves being abused. We found ourselves being deceived and manipulated. And I think that's really what the Father wants to end for you, for me tonight. That before we plant a seed, let's ask the one who gave us the seed. Before we share our fruit, let's ask God, is this the portion? Because again, there are so many examples that I can refer back to. I can use the example of the Syrophoenician woman. You know the story probably. It's that woman that was desperate. She needed a miracle from Jesus. Her daughter was sick and probably dying. And she went to Jesus. You can imagine a mother having your child being sick, right? It's worse than yourself being sick. It's like you rather yourself be sick than having your child or seeing your child being sick. So she had to, travel what distance to go and meet Jesus, thinking this man has the solution to my problem. This man can heal my daughter. I've heard of all the great things that he's done, so I'm here for it. And she comes to him, and she explained the problem. She has to be vulnerable. She has to open herself up and really disclose maybe with the issue with her daughter. And here goes Jesus telling her, girl, I don't have time. That's my own words. I don't have time for you. I'm not here for you. And he was even harsher than that, because he said, I will not give the bread of the children of Israel to the dogs. To the point where he called her like, you're not deserving of what I have. What I have is here and you are there. This is not for you. And we read it and we're like, what kind of Jesus is that? This is not the Jesus that they talk about the chapter before. So it's kind of those things, right? But even if Jesus was speaking like that, it wasn't because he was being condescending. It wasn't because he felt no compassion, but Jesus was focused. Jesus understood that what I carry has value. The people that I'm sent here for, what I have is for them. I cannot afford to plant my seed in the wrong soil. I cannot afford to make a mistake. I cannot afford to waste my time, which I don't have enough of, on someone who's not going to receive or understand even what it is that I'm doing. I cannot afford to, just use those cards that I have on someone who's not going to value, who's going to trample on it. But it's only after the response of this woman, when she said, I understand what you're saying, Master. But even the dogs, they eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. It's only at this moment that even Jesus realized that this woman knows what I carry. This woman has value for what I carry, because she understands that if it falls on the ground and she can eat, the crumbs even are enough. She understands that the tiny thing that I can give, the small amount of time that I can spend with her, even if it's my 5 minutes, she understands that my 5 minutes are valuable. She understands that my 2 words are precious. They can change a destiny. And that is really what I want to implant in your mind tonight. That you need to value yourself, what God has placed in you. You need to place value on what you carry. You need to, and I'm not saying to be arrogant about it, but I'm saying that you need to honor God by honoring the gifts and the fruits that you bear, by honoring your time and your skill and your energy and your money, and even I would say your education and all the knowledge that you have acquired, your experiences, and understand that what some people sometimes may disregard, they may despise, and will not understand what it costs you to have. They may not understand how much sacrifice you had to do or to pay for you to have maybe this knowledge, for you to have, this word of wisdom, for you to have, to be able to manage what you manage and the resources that you have. And it is time now for us to not only place value on it, but to recognize the people that we need to connect with because they understand it and they will be able to carry it on. They will be able to multiply because that's the goal. But if you plant it in the wrong soil, in the wrong person, then guess what? It's just going to die as if it was just the 3 other soil that we talked about. And that's really why I'm here. And I really pray that, this message blesses you. I pray that it's kind of a wake-up call. I pray that it's really, maybe it can shake you up a little bit. But for us to understand that there are things that God has placed inside of us and is now placing a demand on it, because it's easy to say the Lord is returning. It's the end of the world. It's easy to say, but what do we have to show for? That's what we need to think about. God will come back and ask us, what have you done with what I've given you? You can't say, oh, I've given it to my friend that she needed it. No. He will say you did not even recognize the people that I sent you to. You didn't even recognize the one that you used. You wasted your potential. You wasted your opportunities. You wasted your possibilities. You wasted the doors that have opened for you. Just because you didn't want to do the work. And the work may be as simple as just asking God. Tonight, that's all I'm asking you. I'm not coming to give you 1, 2, 3 steps to do it. It's not 1, 2, 3 steps. It's just to go back to the Maker, go back to the Father and ask Him, Father, I'm here as your soil. Show me now how to make sure that I bear fruit from what you've sown inside of me. And as you do that and you see the fruit, don't become complacent. Don't reach the level where, oh, I've attained, I've arrived, I'm good. No. Now you ask Him, how do I multiply? Who do I need to invest in? Who do I need to mentor? Who do I need to train and coach and assist and help and serve and whatever the case may be? So that is my prayer for you and even for myself. So please, let's stand in agreement on this word and let's just pray that even this year and commit that this year will not end with us being at the same place. We will make the decision and follow up on that we refuse to be the first three grounds. We refuse to be the shallow one, the path. We refuse to be the thorny ground. We refuse to be the stony ground. You know, we refuse to be all of those. We are the good soil. So that's what I declare over you. That's why I confess for you that you are the good soil, that God is not wasting his seeds on you, but you will bear fruit, and you will bear much fruit as you abide in him. So may the Lord bless you. Thank you. And again, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, ask questions, email, whatever. And thank you again for taking the time to watch it, to listen. And by God's grace, I will be back next week. Thank you.